Hello and welcome to our Thursday reflection. Our reading this morning is taken from the Gospel according to St. Luke, chapter 8, and beginning to read at the 26th verse. Jesus and his disciples sailed to the region of the Gerasenes, which is across the lake of Galilee. When Jesus stepped ashore, he was met by a demon-possessed man from the town. For a long time, this man had not worn clothes or lived in a house, but had lived in the tombs. When he saw Jesus, he cried out and fell at his feet, shouting at the top of his voice, "What do you want with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you, don't torture me." For Jesus had commanded the impure spirit to come out of the man. Many times it had seized him, and though he was chained hand and foot and kept under guard, he had broken his chains and had been driven by the demon into solitary places. Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" "Legion," he replied, because many demons had gone into him. And they begged Jesus repeatedly not to order them to go into the abyss. A large herd of pigs was feeding there on the hillside. The demons begged Jesus to let them go into the pigs, and he gave them permission. And the demons came out of the man. They went into the pigs, and the herd rushed down the steep bank into the lake and was drowned. When those tending the pigs saw what had happened, they ran off and reported this in the town and countryside, and the people went out to see what had happened. When they came to Jesus, they found the man from whom the demons had gone out sitting at Jesus' feet, dressed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. Those who had seen it told the people how the demon-possessed man had been cured. Then all the people of the region of the Gerasenes asked Jesus to leave them because they were overcome with fear. So he got into the boat and left. The man from whom the demons had gone out begged to go with him, but Jesus sent him away, saying, "Return home and tell how much God has done for you." So the man went away and told all over town how much Jesus had done for him. And as always, we thank God for his word. Well, you may be relieved to hear that I'm not going to talk about pigs. In the time available for one of these reflections, I want to consider another theme in that story. It seems very likely that we will soon have a general election. And what I find worrying about this and other recent elections and referendums is how all involved are trying to play on other people's fears. But fear is the wrong motive for coming to any decision. One of the things Jesus came to do is to take away fear. He frequently said, "Fear not," or "Do not be afraid." So I would like to say to all candidates, tell me what positive actions you are going to take, rather than trying to frighten me with accusations about what your opponents may or may not do. Fear is, of course, something we all experience to a greater or lesser extent at some time in our lives. It may be inner fears or phobias, which no one should ever dismiss as being trivial. Or it may be sheer terror when placed in a position of physical danger. Whatever form they take, all fears are very real to the person experiencing them. But when our fears become too much for us to handle, when our confidence in ourselves has been shaken, we can turn to God. And then sometimes a very different kind of fear comes to us, a fear of being struck by awe at the power of God. So let's look at the different types of fear mentioned in that passage. First of all, the demons who possess the man in today's gospel are filled with fear themselves, fear of Jesus and what he can do. Now, obviously, we could have a completely separate talk about demons. Do they exist? Can people be possessed? But what matters here is that the man himself believed that he was possessed. But whilst the demons meant that everyone was afraid of him, he is afraid of what will happen if they leave him. What kind of man will he be if others aren't afraid of him anymore? Will they harm him? Making drastic changes in our lives can sometimes be more frightening than coping with things just as they are. An interesting point throughout the Gospels is the way that Jesus relates to his followers, or those who wish to follow him. To his earliest disciples, he says, "Come and follow me." At the end of his earthly ministry, he says, "Go and make disciples of all nations." But to this man, after he has been healed, and when he wants so much to go with Jesus, he says, "Stay." Sometimes it seems to me that what he asks us to do is to take the most difficult and the most frightening way. He tells this man, still fragile, probably afraid to return to community who may blame him for the loss of their swine. He tells this man, "Stay. Return home and tell how much God has done for you." But have you noticed something? Jesus says, "Tell how much God has done for you." But Luke tells us that the man went away and told how much Jesus had done for him. This man is one of the first to equate what Jesus does with what God does. He overcomes his fear. But we are told that the people of the region asked Jesus to leave them because they were afraid. They fear his power, the demands he might make on them, the changes he might force in their lives if he stays too close. Literally, too close for comfort. Do our fears bring us to Jesus? Does our fear seek to drive him away when we feel unworthy? Or in his strength, are we able to face our fears? Amen.